You are on the journey of business. An entrepreneur and innovator who spent a lifetime of advising from behind the scenes, building businesses through word of mouth and referrals. Now Mike Wolf is ready to share these strategies and business outlook with you. You're here. You're ready for the journey of business with Mike Wolf.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Journey of Business. I am Mike Wolf. Today's guest is planting seeds and generating leads inside of confident, successful female entrepreneurs. Welcome Hope Long to the show.
Hey, it's good to be here.
That's what's up. Thanks so much for being here with me today. Before we get going, let's talk about it. Introduce yourself and introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah. So my name is Hope Long. I am an authentic marketing coach. Basically, I just help ambitious coaches online get clients without cold DMs by being their authentic selves, right? And showing up in this space as their true identity. And part of it is because we see so much fake on Instagram and, everything's very well curated.
For sure.
Yeah, that's not actually what sells. And it really doesn't actually get you clients.
Yeah, you're 100% right. The fakery, people buy into the fakery pretty strong. So I totally understand.
I'm guilty. I'm guilty of binge watching those.
No, listen, I'm guilty as well. I mean, until you kind of get into this space and you get to know a little bit more behind the scenes stuff, I think it's very fascinating because, a lot of these people that people follow, they don't understand, that they're renting those cars, right? Or leasing, you know what I'm saying? Like there's some real fakery behind the scenes. And so it's always interesting to me when you get to know those people and they're not the real people. So
yeah, the coaches that have their toes in the sand on the beach, they probably took that vacation 6 years ago.
Right. Yeah. You are 100% right. It's funny you say that. So yeah. So you are quickly becoming a go-to coach for entrepreneurs. How did you become a coach? What's that experience been like for you so far?
Yeah. So sales and marketing for the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
But during that decade, also a really bad alcoholic.
Okay.
So in getting sober, right, and I'm coming into this online space, I first went to rehab 3 times. Okay. And while I was working at a pretty big water company and doing sales and marketing for them, and I was stressed out all the time. I was upset all the time. I was not fulfilled. I wasn't changing anybody's life. I couldn't change my own life, right? I had all this stuff going on.
Sure.
And in getting sober, I realized that the opposite of my struggle of the addiction was actually connection.
Right.
And so when I quit that terrible company,
You're good.
When I quit that company, I looked at that and I was like, okay, well, how can I use this to create an impact, to change the perception and change the narrative here on why we do what we do? And so I came into this online space, and that's how I founded my Facebook group. My Facebook group was all about empowering women and genuine connection, telling the stories that are hard to tell. And it developed from there. Like it just took off. And then I got into the lead generation space and into the coaching world. Yeah. And it was really beautiful because it was just based on being me and being able to be vulnerable.
Right. How hard is it to be authentic in that moment when you are walking out of the seasons that you were in, right? And you were walking out of the addiction, recovering, right? You're kind of learning a new way to live, some might say. And then what does that process look like when you're having to be authentic and vulnerable, not only to yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, you're reflecting on yourself, but also to others, when you're putting yourself out there. Is it a judgment-filled conversation, or are you just like, I'm all into this and this is where I'm at?
To this day, it's still a little bit of both, right? Because there's always going to be the next level version of myself, right? And there's always going to be that next conversation with myself. I think this is a big hang up for me, but in the world of recovery, they tell you that you're never actually recovered, right? You're constantly in recovery.
Sure.
And while that may be true to an extent, I think that way of thinking can be harmful.
Yeah.
But coming into the authenticity piece, right? My actions have to align with who I am. And so if I was to show up in this space and have these difficult, hard conversations to connect with other people, that's going to keep me sober more than anything, right? And being able to tell that truth out loud is one thing. And then go internally at night, at the end of the night, and you say, okay, what did I do today to serve myself?
Yeah.
Right. And like, that's kind of, it's always going back and forth, right? Like, serving myself, staying true to myself and with others in as part of it. Right.
Yeah. I will tell you, that's inspiring because I'll tell you, I always look at myself as a constant work in progress, right? I think everyone is a work in progress, but I also am a firm believer that nobody should bet more on myself than myself, so like, somebody's going to be betting on me. And as a coach, you have to empower those people that you coach to really understand, like, at the end of the day, you're betting on yourself, right? Like, you're betting on your own strengths and your own weaknesses to get you where you're trying to go.
Yeah. And that was a big part of deciding that I was going to start a business was, right. Okay, so if I'm unhappy at this company, right, I could stay here and I could continue to be unhappy and I could work for the man, right? And like all the things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or I can recognize my own drive, my own determination, my own will to succeed and go do it myself.
Right.
Why am I not betting on myself? Right. And I asked that in recovery. I'm like, why am I, not betting on myself? And, walking into sobriety and connecting with others helped me believe in that part of me.
I love that. It's empowering. I mean, and I know you empower other people as well in your coaching experiences, but like for me, when I look at business, a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs have walked through something like, they've had something motivate them, catapult them to where they are, whether it is a job ending or being unhappy or divorce or, losing someone or whatever it is that drives them to take that step out in faith. Right. And I think it's such an inspiring message because addiction is such a huge barrier for so many people that they battle every single day. So having people like yourself that can empower people, I think is powerful.
Yeah. I mean, the term, like you get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
Right. And like, eventually that stuff comes to a head and sometimes you have to make whatever, when it does come to the fruition where you're like, I am sick of this, you have to make a decision. And it's about that decision will change your life should you decide to make it.
Sure. And I think that's what's funny, like this is a business show, right? Let's call it what it is. But like the idea of this show is the journey, right? Like that's why I called it what I called it, because I don't think it's easy to get where you are for anyone. Nobody just walks right into success. And so I'm just always intrigued by people's stories. That's why I love doing this show. It's meeting people like yourself and Nicole and all these other people that I've interviewed in the last handful of months that everyone has a story. Everyone has a hang up. Everyone has something that took them to where they are. So I'm thankful that you're sharing that because I know that's a big step. And like I said, I've learned doing this long enough that judgment's not the move, right? Nor our expectations, to be honest, so
right.
I'm proud of you for saying that. I think it's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. It's just, again, it's one of those pieces of being able to connect with people. Right. Yeah. And that being able to tell your story is a beautiful thing, and being able to tell your story without crying, right? So I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. But I mean, listen, that's your journey. That's your path that brought you to where you are. And I mean, now you're killing it. So I think it's an incredible testimony with the test, right? Like the test brought you to that testimony of where you are today, and you're being able to inspire other people, which I think is the most value driven piece that you can do. Obviously that's legit. I'm excited for you. When a client, parlaying into the next question, when a client calls to hire you, because every business is different, what is your criteria for working with them? What does that process look like when they come on board with you to walk in your journey in business?
Yeah. So not I can't help everybody. Right. And so I think so many times in entrepreneurship, especially in the beginning, we want to say, oh, I can help everybody. This is like a brilliant idea. This is going to change everything for everyone. And that's not true. Right. Cold hard facts. I work with people who want to do the work, who are willing to fail. Yeah, right. Because that's going to be part of it. It's inevitable. And I also look for somebody who has the passion to have the willingness to keep failing over and over and over again, because that's kind of what this is. It's the journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not everything is going to work 100% of the time, whether it's your sales, whether it's your marketing, whether it's your messaging, there's tons of different pieces of this, your branding, all of it, right? Not everything is going to be 100% hit.
Sure.
So being able to find, I have the pleasure of working with clients who genuinely, they understand that concept and they look at it as though it's opportunity, right?
Sure.
Like, okay, this didn't work, but it could work if we tweak this one little thing. And they have that optimism, and that you know how people get so pumped up and so excited and they have that sparkle in their eye.
Yep. That
is my client, right? That is my dream client right there. So I bring those people on, and onboarding, there's the initial call, right, where we talk about those big goals and big dreams.
Yeah.
And that's where you really see the fire.
Sure.
And you can feel your, goosebumps tingle for them. And you're right there with them in their dream.
I know exactly
so
what
I
you're
love
saying.
that. Yeah. Love that onboarding call.
Yeah.
And then they come in, they come into my program and they get to dive right in. Right. And so I have an ongoing group program. It's 1 year, but they come in and they can go at their own pace, which is great for them.
Sure.
But 9 times out of 10, they binge watch all the modules and then they come to the calls with really great questions. And
right.
I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Because they're doing the work, right?
Yeah, they're inspired.
They're taking the action. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. So somebody comes on board, they look through your modules, they go through the program, they do this and that. What are their next steps? Right? I mean, you're walking it out with them throughout, I'm assuming, following up, making sure they're good kind of stuff?
Yeah. So we have weekly calls, right, where we get on and we kind of talk about what's going on that week for them. Because so much of it, you can plan and you can, make all the maps that you want to death, but that is not how it usually works.
Right. Yeah.
There's always going to be something that comes up.
For sure.
And so those calls are really the intimate pieces of, okay, so how can we change our perspective on this? How can we look at this differently? How can we maneuver through this particular moment?
And these are one-on-one calls, or are they group calls?
These are group calls.
Got it.
Which is also my favorite because it's not just me, right? It's not just I can teach and you guys can learn from me and all the things.
Right.
But having that group vibe and those different perspectives come in, different ideas, it's very collaborative space.
Yeah.
Which 9 times out of 10, it's collaboration over competition all day. And, you never want to be the smartest person in the room.
Fair.
So I love bringing on clients who are also, badasses in their industries.
Sure. Yeah. And I think what's fun about the group setup, the group dynamic, is you're getting feedback from people who have been there, right? That have already kind of stepped where you're stepping. And you're also able to see where they're at now. And you're kind of inspired to kind of chase what they're doing and maybe even build that relationship outside of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
That's
a lot
legit.
of my clients go on to do, like, they'll do lives with each other and podcasts with each other and, all these awesome things. And it's just very cool to see. Again, it's those relationships forming, because those relationships are going to carry, right? Once the program's over and I'm out and you guys have gotten the results, you're still going to be friends with Krista that you met on day one, right? And it's nice.
Yeah, because you're on that journey together, I mean, you're in there and they're in the weeds, you're walking it out, you're trying to figure it out, you're both inspired. Yeah, so that makes perfect sense. I think that's awesome. So let's talk about how we change lives, right? You and I, we change lives for a living. That's basically what we do, which is an incredible opportunity to do. It's a value-driven thing. It's a dream come true for me to be able to try and change the world. Was that your vision as well when you came out to become a coach?
Yes and no, right?
Okay.
I didn't know what I didn't know at the time, right? So when I was first coming in, I had no idea what coaching even was, right? So I'm just flip-flopping through these Facebook groups, kind of doing what everybody does in the beginning, is just seeing what's possible, seeing what the opportunity looks like.
Right.
And being able to watch, I see other people's transformations, right? And reading their come up stories and their success stories. And it gives you that little flutter, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, when I sat with that, right? I was like, okay, how can I do something like that? How could I make that work? And at the time I didn't register as coaching, right?
Sure.
At the time I just thought, oh, I'll make a Facebook group where everybody can just share their stories and we can empower each other and be there for one another.
Yeah.
And then I look at, now I look back and I go, oh yeah, I was coaching, but I didn't know it.
Yeah. You didn't call it coaching. Yeah. You were processing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of cool because I just like stumbled into it. And now, I've been in it for, coming up on a year.
Right.
And now the vision has changed dramatically, right? Like I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger ideas and ways to create the ripple effect.
Yeah.
And how does this look in my community, right?
Sure.
Not just online.
Yeah.
What would this look like on a state level? What if I could hold this conference? What if I could do this retreat? What if I could do this? All the things.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so inspired because, when I hear you say stuff like that, I already know that's coming for you, right? So the idea of you going, hey, I could see this on a much bigger level, just seeing what you're doing already online with your online presence in your group, just knowing you for a small amount of time, it's very inspiring. And I think there's going to be value there. And I could see the retreats. I could see those kind of things, virtual or in person. I think it would be pretty incredible to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
that's the big picture, right? That's the end game, right?
Yeah, of course. That's awesome. So let's talk about your Facebook group. It's called Confident, Successful Female Entrepreneurs. I love that group promotes self-promotion, genuine connections, empowerment of female entrepreneurs. As a dad of daughters that are 16 years old, twins, I talk about them every episode because they're an inspiring, big part of my life, obviously, especially when I'm trying to raise female entrepreneurs. What was the hope behind the group? I know you kind of just touched on that a little bit just a minute ago, but was the idea of this that you could just build a complete network of people to just go out and dominate?
Yeah. I mean, essentially, when it started, obviously I was thinking small.
Sure.
But today I definitely do not see this staying so small. I look at people like Tony Robbins and I go, oh my gosh, what if I could get a room full, in Florida of 1,000 women who are crushing it or that are ready to change their life or to go and do this big, scary thing that they've always dreamed of.
Yeah.
And, I see that for my group one day. Right. And what I see right now though, is I still see those awesome, intimate connections, the relationships that are building. I watch people collaborate, like they get to know each other in the comment section. Sure. And then, a couple of weeks later, I'll see them doing something together on a live, or I will see them promoting each other, supporting one another. Yeah. And that's what it is. That's what it's about. But one day we could have a whole thing, right? And just be an army of badass women.
Yeah. Listen, I'm in a house full of women. So I'm all for that, and so I think that's incredible. So I love the connection with the opportunity to self-promote within your group. I think that's incredible, obviously. And then, like you said, they build these genuine connections, and then, they find this empowerment, and I still think it's an underserved deal, an underserved community still at this point. So having these groups like yours and Nicole's and all these people that go out there and just dominate for women, I think is just really awesome to witness for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, women, there was the stereotype that, women don't like other women. Yeah. And that's not true. Right. And when we see that, we see the jealousy, we see these things come up and the hate and the spewing, all the poor, it's just poor form. Truly. It's poor form. I don't, the women in my community, they don't see that. They see opportunities to collaborate and to empower one another. Right. And it's not always, well, she's made 20K and I've only made 10K and da, 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 da. You don't hear that in my community. Sure. And I really appreciate that about these women. These women are, true leaders.
Right. And it's funny because I do talk about my daughters a lot because it's funny. God just continues to bring powerful women like yourself to do my show. Right. Like I have other guys that want to do my show, but for whatever reason, the line of strong women is continuing to come into the journey of business kind of ladder. And I love that, because it is inspiring. If I can get my daughters to listen to my show, all their friends listen to my show, but I'm not really sure what's happening there, but that's beside the point. I won't get into that.
You're not cool enough, Dad.
I'm not cool enough in my house. I don't know enough about business in my house. So I'll get there someday, maybe. Hey, so what are some strong and solid sales and marketing takeaways? I'm always fascinated because this is your space, right? That you would want to share from somebody listening today that you're like, maybe a little outside the box thinking type status of sales and marketing tips or stuff that you would want to throw to somebody.
Yeah. So, okay. And this is going to sound cliche, right?
Okay.
This might sound cliche to some of your listeners. Do what you say you're going to do. One, like if you are going to hop on a call with somebody, let's say that you have an online business and you are offering, I just did this, right? I offer, free 15-minute calls to connect with people, but also I give them my lead generation strategy. I give them my engagement strategy for social media so that they can go and do it. Because when they go do that, they're going to get a result. What I don't do on these calls is flip the script and try to sell them, right? I don't do that. I don't offer them my program. I don't even talk about my program on the call. I say, hey, I'm Hope. I'm the authentic marketing coach, and I want to give you this strategy so that you can go try it and maybe get some sales and meet some new people. And they love that. They love the people that get on these calls with me are so shocked because so much of marketing right now in this space is flipping the script, right? A bait and switch.
Sure.
And just do what you say you're going to do and do that. Don't try and make every call a sale because it shouldn't be. You are not for everyone, right? And not everyone is for you. And so if you can allow that, you would find, feel like people would find they would have much more success and just probably a little bit more freedom, right? Mentally, if they would just do that instead of turning everything into a sale.
Sure.
It's it's probably my biggest pet peeve in this space. Sorry for ranting.
I'll tell you, I think that's so good because I think you have to show up, you have to be consistent, but I also think you have to know what's right for you, right? Like this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, knowing the right customer for you. You don't say yes to everyone. There's not a yes for everyone. It's just not the way it is. Even though if you're turning down opportunities that would probably be good long term, if it's going to cause you stress and anxiety, it's not worth it up front. Usually, in my experience, and I've walked both sides of that fence. Unfortunately, where you bet on someone and you're like, okay, they really want to work with me. Yeah, let's do it. And I know it's going to be bad from the jump, and it's bad from the jump. So, I think those experiences kind of forge that road. And I think, like you said, I think it is so important to be able to just show up and be consistent and add value. Like you said, you're giving the value up front. And I think the money chases value. I say that all the time. I don't think value chases money. Yeah,
100%. I definitely agree with that. Yeah. The other, this other little tidbit that I have for you, and this is something that's come up recently. When I came into the online space, again, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I was seeing all kinds of, kind of bigwig coaches and female coaches that seemed like they had it all, right? And I'm like, oh, I better listen to them because they're smarter and they're better off than me and all the things, right?
Sure.
And they're selling quote unquote passive income masterclasses or passive income workshop, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
For those that might be listening that are coming into this space and they're checking out the Facebook groups and they're getting into this, there is no such thing as passive income.
Come on.
Right.
Yeah.
It's only passive after you've established your base foundations. And I hate that, it's kind of like, you're also, keep in mind, like there's no easy button for entrepreneurship. And I know that you've talked about this. This is your zone of genius,
Yeah.
So I hate that, it's kind of being marketed in that way where it's marketed as an easy button. There is no easy button, you guys.
Right.
And
No, you're exactly right. And it's so funny because I've had to dabble in TikTok a lot lately. I did some kind of test algorithm stuff that I was just throwing out there on my personal stuff, and it got some speed attached to it, and whatever. And that was an interesting experience. But since then, everything is in business, right? All my feed is business or sports or whatever. But the business part of it is interesting because the people that come up, 90% of them are selling a get rich quick, right? It's not even the easy button. It's just like pay the $7 and I'll change your life stuff,
Yeah.
And I'm like, please stop. And so what's crazy about that is so many people buy into that. Right. They believe that's the escape plan. That's the way for me to get my situation out there and change my life is to go man, this $7 is just going to change the world. And then they eat $7 and then they're pissed off at the world because it doesn't work out. Right.
Yeah.
$7.
I mean, truly, yeah. Think of it. Like $7 is going to change your whole life. Like, one, is that realistic? But also, you have to have a certain mindset, right? I know that if I pay $7 for something, I know I'm going to get something out of it because I'm the kind of person that creates my own return on investment.
Yeah.
So if I pay $7 for something, I'm going to know, I'm going to remember it. I'll take notes on it. I'll do the work around it, right? And I will take it to the next level because that's what it's for.
Right.
These cheap little offers are not for total life transformation. They're
Right.
to get your wheels turning, right? They get your wheels turning so that you can think in terms of opportunity,
Sure.
in terms of the next step, all of those things. I'm not saying low ticket offers are bad. I'm just saying you get what you pay for and you still have to put in the work, right?
I literally was just going to say that. I mean, I think, you doing this now for over a year. I mean, for me, I know what my value is, right? You're not going to catch me pitching a $7 pitch. It's not worth my time to give you a $7 pitch. It's just not. And but at the same time, I also understand why people buy into it because they want to change their lives. Right. And not everyone can afford to work with people like us. And that's fair. But the idea is like, you pay for what you get for with us as well. The idea is that we're turning you into 7-figure earners. It's not that we're turning you into, oh, well, your $7 is going to flip to, maybe you'll make a couple $100 here and there. I think the idea is that you bring us on to bring in millions of dollars to your bottom line. At least for me, that's why somebody calls me. It's not because they want short-term success. They want to build a foundation and they want to win. So,
yeah. Well, and we were just talking about how, you had interviewed my coach, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
Nicole's on the show.
Yeah.
And very openly, I love her and I love that she is my coach. But, I invested in her, right? I invested that $10,000 for nonstop notifications and it has changed my life. I've been in it for a few months and it's changed everything. One, it's worth way more than $10,000.
Sure.
So if somebody is making an offer for you for something that's $5,000, $10,000, sometimes even $15,000, $20,000,
right.
Think about the return on investment there, right?
Yeah.
Then the frequency at which you're in this space with this person,
right?
Obviously make back the $10,000 and then let's double it, quadruple it, because she also is giving me the foundational strategy to do it again and again and again and again, right? So it makes sense when people first come in. Of course they get the $7, $97, because they also don't know what it's like to make that back. They don't know what it's like to make 5 figures in a month, have a 6-figure launch, all of those things.
Sure.
Right.
And I think what's crazy about that is you're kind of paying for that experience that someone else already has, right? That's done it, and I think that's what's hard for people to understand there. Man, that's a lot of money. Yeah, it is a lot of money. But like the idea is that person's going to take you to that level or try and bring you along. They're pulling you along and you're paying for that time. You're paying for that experience. So, it's kind of the good, fast and cheap conversation, pick 2 of the 3. Right. I mean, it's really what it is. If you want something good, it's not going to be fast or cheap. I mean, it's just one of those things where you've got to understand what you're paying for, I guess, if that makes sense. So, but yes, Nicole's firecrackers, man. I'm telling you, she's killing it too. So very excited for her. Okay. Couple of things I want to catch you before we go. What's next for you? I know you have a lot going on. I know you have a launch on March 14th. And the show is going to drop March 14th. So that's an exciting thing to be able to plug into that. The links for all her stuff that she's going to be working on, that Hope's working on, will be in the links of the bio. So what do you have going on next?
Yeah. So 14th is planting seeds and generating leads. And it is a totally free, value-packed masterclass on lead generation and specifically lead generation using social media, right?
Yeah.
And so walking you through all of those steps and what that looks like. And then I'm hosting a workshop at the end of the month. It'll be the last week of March. And it's called Spring Forward to get clients, because everything has to be branded with flowers this month. It just does.
Sure.
And so we're springing forward to get clients. So covering the basics, like covering the content pieces of it. What do you need to produce to make sure you're actually cultivating an audience that will convert, that know, and trust you, all of those basics, right?
Yeah.
And pulling your true self into that So,
Right.
and making it more fun, more personal. So,
Well, that's legit. I will.
spring forward to get clients.
Yeah, I will make sure I have links in the bio for all of the stuff that Hope is dropping this month, and I'm sure she'll be able to connect with you outside of that as well if this is something you listen to after March. So the last thing that I always ask my guests, the return on investment of failure, the definition of that. How has failing in your journey helped you?
Oh man. So we touched on being an alcoholic, right?
Sure.
Let's talk about how many days of failure that was.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, God, though, it made me everything that I am today. It changed my mindset, changed my perspective. And even in the coaching world, in the online space, right? I've made some poor financial decisions, right? I've invested in some people that weren't aligned for me. They were not meant for me.
Right.
But they were meant to teach me a lesson, right?
Yeah.
I had to learn those lessons because it also gave me perspective on what I stand for in this space. So had I not been burned by some coaches and some programs and those things, I wouldn't have the value set that I have, and I wouldn't be able to deliver and help people the way that I do.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's everything. You have to fail in order to actually succeed. Even after you've succeeded, you're going to keep failing because there's always the next level. Yeah. Always the next level.
Right. No, that's so good, because I think I always tell people it's a lot easier to fall forward than backward, right? I think the idea is that people always kind of define failing as one thing or another. I always look at it as a learning opportunity, and people say that all the time, and it seems like you say a little bit cliche here and there, but it's just facts. It's just what it is. I mean, we come on here and we preach truths. I don't know how to not tell you the truth, right? I'm not built that way. And so listening to your story and listening to your journey, I think is so inspiring, because I think there's people that are going to listen to this and they're going to go, hey, you know what? I'm struggling with whatever that is. I'm struggling with X, right? And I think the idea is, how do you turn X into something incredible, and find the inspiration, find the people that can drag you along. And yeah, it's hard work. You're going to have to put in the work. You want to be where we are, you got to put in the work, period. And I'm truly inspired by that, because I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired by people who are out there that make change, because I know it's incredibly difficult. But also, you're out there giving back and leaning forward, which I think is the most important thing.
Entrepreneurship is not one or the other. It's not failure or success. It's actually both. And so when you have that mindset, then you're ready for entrepreneurship.
Sure.
But you have to know it's going to be both. Well,
you just kind of kicked open another question for me. So let's talk mindset for a second. When you say it's about mindset, I know what you're saying, but it's a blended version, right? So, when you're in this headspace of, because listen, I struggle with this sometimes too. It's I'm overwhelmed. I am buried. I need to delegate more. I need to be better. But then you're afraid to give it away, right? So I think the idea is it's all mindset. So for you, mindset is such a huge play. How did you get out of your own head? How did you get out of your own way?
First, I did it physically, right? So I kept myself very busy. And that's part of the AA structure, right? Is you need to go serve people. You need to go to the meetings. You need to put the chairs out at the meetings. Yeah. And you need to volunteer for stuff and do things. Yeah. It was very, very much get out of my own, take my body and go do something. Right. Because when you're busy doing stuff, you don't have time to think. Yeah. And I can see why they set it up that way. Sure. I will say today I don't go to the AA meetings and I don't do those things because it's just not part of my journey anymore. Right. But it was helpful in the beginning. Sure. Now, when you're transitioning, right? And you're transitioning, you're doing the physical stuff, right? You're staying busy. Yeah. You begin to look at yourself and go, well, am I being busy or could I actually be productive? Right. And those who are in entrepreneurship are productive people. We produce. That's what we do. So as I'm sitting in this weird in-between land, right? In sobriety, I'm looking at myself and I'm going, yeah, I'm really busy, but am I doing anything? I'm I'm not really doing anything. Yeah. That's when the possibilities start to come into play. It's oh, well, if I was going to do something, what would it look like? How do I want to feel? What do I want it to be? Yeah. What do I want the long-term view of this to be? Sure. Right. And it comes into play. But, during that, your mindset, it changes every day, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's does, even if you're not in entrepreneur land yet, right? You still have things that are shaping your beliefs and your values and conversations that you're having that change your perspective. And all these things are happening, whether you realize it or not.
That's so good.
And so, yeah. And so you get to decide what you want your mindset to be. And I don't think a lot of people know that. I think a lot of people think life is happening to them and not for them. And, you get to choose.
That's good stuff. Yeah, now, listen, that's fire. I'm pumped on that. That's definitely going into social media clips for the record. So, okay, I'm going to get you out of here. Finally, where can people find you online?
So I am on Facebook. It's Hope Long. I'm on Instagram, Hope Long Coaching. And of course, if you are a female entrepreneur or if you are an aspiring female entrepreneur and you want to get in a space with other empowered women, please join my Facebook community. It's free. Just come and hang out with us, right? Confident, Successful Female Entrepreneurs on Facebook.
That's what's up. Hey, I'm so thankful, Hope, that you took the time today. I know people are going to walk away inspired from this, and I'm so grateful for you taking the time.
I'm so grateful for coming, and thank you for having me. And I am just very grateful for another wonderful Monday and another wonderful podcast and another wonderful way to make an impact.
Come on. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of The Journey of Business. I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day. If you're loving The Journey of Business, follow us over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave a review on Apple Podcasts right now. Again, have an incredible day. I'll see you next week with another episode of The Journey of Business.
To continue your journey of business, subscribe to the show wherever you find podcasts or at YouTube. And for more information on consulting inquiries, go to www.tradelinkSales.com.